Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. Sun is shining. The weather looks just beautiful. You really can't ask for anything better, right? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jose Guzman. And if you're returning, welcome back. So, for those who are new, the point of my channel in general is to pretty much just highlight and capture the good, the bad, and the ugly, the entire journey of my real estate career, starting from the pre-licensing course all the way to eventually being a full-fledged real estate agent. Again, this channel will transform, so it would be a lot less of a video journal and more of actual content showing you folks houses, going over different things. I don't want to give out all my cards, but it's gonna be a lot of exciting things that's going to come in terms of content. With that being said, let's dive right into it. So this week's episode is going to be focusing on the pre-licensing course. If you haven't checked out my last video, please check it out. In the description, there is a gentleman whose YouTube channel was great. It really helped me decide between what course I wanted to go with. He screen recorded essentially the actual UI of each course, and it was a done deal for me. So I'm actually looking right now at the course as we speak. So when you first log in, first and foremost, Aceable Agent is the course that I chose. The product offers two different modalities. We have the web mode, like actually the website using your browser, and then we have the actual application itself. I found that very valuable. At that time, I was traveling for work, so I didn't want to just carry around with my laptop, even though I technically did. But I want to carry around my laptop everywhere I go. So it's nice to be able to sit down, have the laptop there, and just work off of it. But it's also equally as nice to be able to go get a haircut, go do laundry, go travel, be at the airport, and still kind of go through the course itself. So when you come in, what does Aceable Agent offer? So one thing I should mention is the fact that when you're doing your course, there's going to be some authentications that need to happen, right? So like randomly, it'll ask you like specific questions that you had to like pre-configure prior to enrolling to make sure that you're still the actual person completing the course and not somebody else. So it'll ask you like what your phone number was, your email, and some other stuff that I can't remember. So the course itself, the course curriculum is composed of 24 levels. Now, I don't remember my initial reaction. I don't know if I was like, wow, that's a lot, or wow, that's easy. But each level is made up of various chapters. So for example, level 1 has 8 chapters with a final exam at the end of it as a level 1 assessment. Each level has a level assessment that you must complete and pass with a score of 70 or higher in order for you to transition into the next level. So the course was really engaging. I found it very funny at times, especially doing this after work. I might have been a little delusional at that point. So I just found these things just hilarious. But it makes a couple of like witty jokes here and there. It incorporates some videos to better understand the concept. So like they'll have like a script about dogs. I don't know, but it's there. Aside from that, we transition to something a little bit more serious where you actually have an actual gentleman. I forget his name. I don't know if it was Tom or whatever. You folks will figure it out. But he pretty much breaks down some of these complex topics and helps you understand them a little bit more in the video format. You can read through the material. I personally had the audio on, so it read out loud, which is great. You can control the speed of it. The only downside is if you're someone who's not like me and you can actually read fast, right? We're talking like flash level. It does force you to stay in that specific page before you can transition to the next. And I believe it states like if you hover over the next button, that it's something with New York State's requirement. The reason why I didn't like that is not because I'm reading at a wickedly fast Olympic level speed. It's because sometimes I would start the topic on my laptop, and when I go transition to my phone, it might give me the previous page. So I'm like, oh, I already read this. If I try to hit next, it'll tell you, hey, you have to wait the allotted amount of time before you can transition over. So that's the only downside to that. There's material you can physically read. You can turn on the audio so you can just have it read out loud to you. There's going to be authentications that are going to pop up for you. There will be videos, both funny, adorable little scripts about puppies doing real estate, and then you'll have like the actual traditional human being talking to you. There is going to be a individual, that's a woman at the end of each level that pretty much condenses everything you've learned within that level, giving you the highlights of those specific topics, and then lets you know that you're going to now take the final exam, or excuse me, the level assessment. Again, can't stress this enough. You have to pass those level assessments before you transition over to the next. Now, what I liked about that, and that's pretty much like the whole gist of it, in a nutshell without me going into a 40-minute rant. When you take those pop quizzes within the actual chapters, they're there to help you. So as you're going through certain concepts, again, for me, it's nice because it forces me to pay attention. You take the exam and it pretty much just tells you how you're doing, right? If you get it wrong, it tells you why you got it wrong. It doesn't just tell you, hey, you suck. It breaks it down, which is nice. Now, I train for a living, so I know how valuable it is for us when we're talking to clients to let them know, hey, this is wrong. The reason why this is wrong is because XYZ. And then we give the actual explanation and what the right answer is. I learn better that way. I don't want to just be told, yeah, this is right or wrong. I want to know why I'm right and why I'm wrong. So those feedbacks are very valuable. And that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much what they give you. Towards the end of my journey here for the pre-licensing, sometime around March, April, I discovered that they incorporated a new feature called ACE mode. ACE mode is exactly what it states. The idea is it's a play on words, really. ACE mode, because it's called Aceable Agent, but it's also there to help you ace your exam. So ACE mode offers mock exams, which I've taken many. Yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into it. That's gonna be next week's episode. But essentially, what it does is that it breaks down the practice topics. So quite literally, it says each card highlights a key topic, your level of understanding, and tools to help you improve. So, for example, we have specializations, contract basics, and the list goes on and on. It gives you what your score actually is. Depending on the concept you're in, it'll either give you practice questions. So all of them are always going to give you practice questions. They're going to be 20 questions. But the other variables is that it might give you videos, it might give you glossary terms, or whatever the case might be. Now it is dynamic. So as I'm taking the course, if I'm like struggling with certain concepts and I'm failing or getting certain questions wrong during those pop-up questions or even during the level assessments, it's going to go ahead and update your score so you know exactly what you need to work on. If I'm taking these practice questions here, I might have scored 100 because I remember the material almost immediately. But 6 months later, if I decide to revisit that topic using ACE mode, if I score poorly, it's going to update those scores accordingly. So it's a really nice tool to utilize. It's definitely something I used for the pre-licensing prep for the final exam. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We do have today's study plan. So it chooses your weakest 3 topics of the day and pretty much just allows you to review them, take the practice exams if you needed to, and just kind of take it from there. So really good stuff. In the course itself, they incorporate AI into the mix. So you have your Aceable Agent bot that you can go ahead and click on, utilize it to answer any questions you might have, and really just hone in on complex topics. The downside to that is that it's not like ChatGPT or Gemini where it's feeding off of the previous information. You have to re-enter the topic. So for example, if I'm struggling with condominiums and the type of insurances that are offered for those type of properties, I can ask it a question like, hey, what type of insurance policies are usually covered for condominiums? It'll give me my answer. If I was to update it with a why or why not this, it's going to pretty much tell me it doesn't know what I'm talking about, right? So I had to reiterate, why does the condominium utilize this specific type of insurance policies and what have you not? If you ask it anything outside of the realm of real estate, it's going to tell you that it can't answer the question because it's not pertaining to the actual course. But other than that, it's really good. So it'll give you like college level explanations. But if you really need it, you can ask it and literally tell it, hey, explain this and simplify this as if I was a fifth grader. And it would do just that. It would literally give you easy, digestible answers to really just overcome those humps for those complex topics. They give you access to a study guide, which is nice. The study guide is like 400 pages. How I utilized it the first year was I added it into my notes. So I was going through, I was reading it, I was kind of making flashcards, et cetera, et cetera. The second year around, anytime I was struggling with a specific topic, I ended up just highlighting the information, control F it on the PDF, and it just took me right to where I was. And I would just kind of read the highlights, if you will. So I can be like, okay, this is what this entire chapter is trying to explain. You can print out some of the materials here as well. So some of the stuff I have is like Aceable contract writing style guidelines. They will have formulas. So there's 100 different math formulas. Math is my weakest point. That's the one thing I have to, really work on. They'll give you like it's just really good stuff overall. Like I just can't emphasize this enough. So a lot of great resources. They also have resources on Quizlet, which is awesome. So all 24 levels have flashcards associated with them on Quizlet. You just have to go in and just kind of just copy and paste or save them. How I forget what the process actually look like, and you're good. You can utilize them. The downside to that was obviously you still had to pay your subscription to Quizlet if you wanted to use AI or avoid the ads, or I forget what it was. And because some of these concepts are like heavy in material, the flashcards, when you're doing like the flashcard games or whatever fun games that they have for you to learn, you couldn't read the full data. So like it was pretty much cut off. So that was the only downside to it. And I want to say that's pretty much it. So that's everything regarding Aceable Agent. I really did enjoy the course. I definitely would recommend it to anybody. It was easy to digest. It was very intuitive. It was very interactive. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for. So next week, what we'll do is we'll talk about the process for the pre-licensing exam. So you do have to take a pre-licensing exam, and then you have to take the state licensing exam. So the pre-licensing exam is going to be everything related to Aceable Agent, their final exam. We'll talk about how I prepped for I think it was like 3 months before I took the exam. We'll talk about some of the mistakes. I feel like we learn better. I'm wet behind the ears, folks. I'm not going to be here like, this is what it is, and talk with this level of authority that I don't have. Because at the end of the day, what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. So I definitely want to highlight what I deemed my mistakes to be for prepping for the pre-licensing exam. And then that way you either avoid those mistakes. So hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and also from my accomplishments. So that pretty much concludes today's video. Thank you so much, folks, for staying this long and watching. And I look forward to seeing you folks next week. As always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please throw them in the comment sections. Throw up a like, subscribe, and stay safe, stay great. And I look forward to seeing you folks next week. Take care.